lines. We'll pick a few of them, and then Nicholas Warunoye will dissect the stories, and then we also give you the opportunity to pass comment on some of the analysis to be made on this national trending stories. My name is Dayo Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Good morning. Thank you for joining
And
us.
as usual, we have Nicholas Warunoye this morning in the house. Morning to you, Nicholas.
Good morning.
It's a cold morning. I can see that you're feeling it.
Well,
That's why you're well protected.
thank you.
Thank you for coming this morning. Hope you had a great weekend.
Well, I wish it were better.
All right.
Yeah.
It will be. Just keep hope alive. And let's state before we get into the conversation that, reactions and positions taken on any of the stories to be discussed is not in any way the position of Flow FM 92.7 or any of the staff therein, but as solely expressed by the analyst Nicholas Warunoye, or maybe from a caller this morning. But please remember that when you call in and you get through, you have a space of 1 minute to pass comments. Let's not use this platform to insult anybody. Let's keep our comments very, very clean, concise, and straight to the points. Let's get right into our conversation this morning.
Yeah, before we get right into it, we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube this morning. And it's on YouTube at Flow FM 927 and on Facebook at Flow FM NG. You can get in on the live action on any of these platforms this morning. Starting off with this story, it's pretty sad. Over the weekend, about 39 people were killed in a food, palliative distribution in Anambra and in Abuja, in Okija, Anambra State, and Mitama, Abuja, on Saturday and Sunday. It was, in a bid to obtain free food items distributed by organizers, and then during that, people trampled on each other to be able to get ahead and get some of these food items.
Well, it's a very sad development, and it, was it not Friday we were talking about the Ibadan instance, and we talked about issues of that it's a whole gamut of it's everybody, every sphere of life, has its blame in what happened. Then you now have a repeat that is in rapid succession, Anambra and Abuja. You see what it generally says is that the hardships is all over the places, and it speaks to the growing desperation among the average Nigerian to get the basic essentials of life. And at some point you are kind of you are rendered insensitive. You don't even know where to start addressing the issue. Is it about poor organization? Is it about the level of desperation among people? Is it about what? You don't even know how to even address it. The most important thing is that a lot has happened to Nigerians in the last couple of years, up to the extent that you can have this kind of I'm very sure those people who lost their lives in both Okija and Abuja must have heard the story in Ibadan about how Stampede killed about 35 children. They probably had it at the back of their, but yet they could not exercise caution. So you start asking yourself, what could be going through their mind, when they were doing all those rush things. Because you see, sometimes I don't know whether people take a back seat, like for me, when I go to a tragic, a scene where there has been death, where there has been killing, where there has been, the first thing I do is, when I look at the corpse, what were the last thoughts in that person's mind? So I ask myself, what were their thoughts when they got there? Did they see any sign that something will go wrong? So it tells you, what it simply tells you is the level of that is the psychological, the psychological, emotional being of the average Nigerian at this time. That when there is too much of suffering, when there are too much of hardship, it robs you of those senses, that keeps you alert, that keeps you alive. And honestly, going forward, I think it's just beyond saying that people should put measures in place, put a proper measure in place for when you want to do the distribution of palliatives and the rest of them. It's beyond that. I think there is a need for us to look at the psyche of the average Nigerian. We haven't really taken time to look at how we are. In fact, there was a survey that said that the number of clinically insane people that are on the street are way high. You know, we don't do all the psych eval thing. You want to get a job, nothing like a psych eval that sees you, that shows whether you have the mental capacity to do that kind of a thing. You want to join the police, they look at you whether you can manage yourself. You understand? So all those things are absent. You want to put in for a job, you know, okay, they just ask for your CV. Yeah, they ask, you know, they talk to you, one you know, maybe some 10 to 12 minute session, nothing like a psych eval where you are given a form to fill some certain things and see your mental disposition to it. So if we have had these things in various, you know, you can aggregate and say, okay, this is the percentage of sanity that we have in Nigeria. You know, I think all of this, you know, coalesce into all these tragedies we are seeing, and it's very, very sad. Well, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is really, really sad. Again, one cannot take away desperation from stampede when it occurs. And you'll recall during one of the employments conducted in the country at some point, some years ago, there was a stampede at that. So again, it talks about desperation. People want to get ahead of the next person. And if you look at that, it causes, you know, this, you know, stampede that you see, and it's happened in Oyo, it's happened in Anambra, it's happened in Abuja as well. My question is, when there is a large gathering of people like that, should there be a measure of security presence to control the crowd, or what necessary measures should we put into place? Because hey, because of this, we cannot say that since that employment stampede during I think 8 years ago, we cannot say that such an employment, you know,
should not happen again.
Should not happen again.
Exactly.
We cannot say distribution of palliatives should not happen again.
You know,
what should we do?
You know, in a way, you have partly mentioned where the problem is. Now, if you recall, in one of the stories I read this morning, the federal government warning people not to politicize the stampede thing. You know, my kind of, it was like, you know, I remember what happened. That incident you mentioned in Abuja, where is it immigration? Yeah, immigration employment. You know, where people died. You know, a lot of politics happened, and that has always been the problem. That's partly the problem. When things like that happen, political opponents sit and see how they can exploit it to put the government of the day, you know, under pressure. You understand? So probably that is why they are saying that don't do that. Please don't use this to whip up unnecessary political sentiment. That has always been the problem, because when things like that happen, in fact that stampede that happened there wasn't the first one we've had now. You know, if you recall, when Sam Okwaraji died, that's was it 1989 or 1980, at that about when Sam Okwaraji died, 7 other people died in a stampede where the National Stadium was banned. So we've been having it over the years. So the question is, what measures have we always put in place? The case of the stadium thing, we got a sanction from FIFA that, you know, that put the national Surulere, national stadium on ban. That is banned it for a while until certain measures were put in place. It was only when that global body frowned at what happened that strong measures were put in place, and for a very long time, no such thing happened at the National Stadium. When we have international fiesta, international soccer matches, it never happens. But in the case of when it happens to us here, when the federal government is supposed to have reeled out policies, you see all those things happen, because instead of thinking of measures to do, they are busy fighting off political enemies that are latching on that incident, you know, to make a meal, you know, to capitalize on the, you know, to make political capital out of that sad incident.
Should that be the concern of the ruling governments? Again, Nigerians are at liberty.
It shouldn't. They shouldn't allow themselves to be distracted. So, and that is what we need to happen now. That, yes, we've been having enough of this thing. It's not about pushing back at the opposition. It's about putting measures in place to ensure that things like this don't happen again. You know, because, you know, you have the fire brigade, you have the, you know, what was it called? Various rules of, you know, all those. It's high time you start enforcing things like that. That is it. That is, if you want to do a thing of this size, 1,000 people, you must have social capacity. You must have also people in place. There must be NSCDC, there must be road safety, you must insist on that. So the moment you don't do that, if anything happens, then you answer for it. So in the absence of that, we'll continue having this thing, and we'll just be all this hand wringing and all this wailing and crying all over the places and statements all over the places until the next one happens again.
You mentioned, not politicizing this stampedes and all of that, and then PDP has come out to say that this is directing it to APC and saying that is what's happening is acts of desperation, and it's APC that has put Nigerians in this position.
Put Nigeria in which position? When the incidents we mentioned happen under PDP now. The immigration thing happened under. Well, this at Abamoro, and he's in the Senate right now. It's what you would have expected a contrite leader to have done as a senator was to make sure that he learned from that thing and put a law. Is he putting a law in place to make sure things like this didn't happen? That's to tell you that the average Nigerian politician does not learn. The average Nigerian politician is a dishonest individual. That is just the problem we have. This idea of people who are conscienceless, they just go there. They have the conscience of a mollusk. They go there, and no matter. In fact, the more the tragedy, it more or less it gives them joy. Kind of, they get the necessary political traction they need to move to the next stage. So PDP coming out to say things like this, in fact, they shouldn't even be talking. I expect a more sober, a more balanced, comments from them that this happened under us too. Mm-hmm. Yes, this was how we reacted. This was the measures we put in place. Not just say that there was desperation. That was why people that had jobs wanted the immigration job because they were not gainfully employed. So I mean. Sometimes you ask yourself, sometimes I don't know why Nigerians do the kind of things they do elsewhere. People will just look at it and just say, are these people normal? That is just the question. So it's not just putting it at the doorstep of, the ruling party or the federal government. It's everybody. That was why I said it's a holistic thing. The kind of values that we have in this country sucks, honestly.
Just to... also, add to this conversation, it's still on this stampede conversations about the one that happened in Ibadan. The children, the death toll is still rising, unfortunately. And Obi on Twitter this weekend was talking about, the acts of goodwill should not be criminalized. The Oni of former wife of Oni of Ife, the conversation, she's having to deal with police cases and all of that. And Obi is saying that the acts of goodwill should not be criminalized, even with the death toll rising.
Yeah, I absolutely understand Peter Obi's sentiment in that, but I beg to differ on that. Because you see, by every measure, I think Naomi and the other media guy that was involved in that thing, Uriyomi Hamzat.
He's a veteran journalist.
He's a veteran journalist. So he's into broadcasting. So he understands. I think the average Nigerian, the average journalist is a historian. And given his age, he's been there for a while. He understands that stampede happens when. The stories of stampedes all over the places. So he should understand that things like this could happen, and advise, accordingly. Then secondly, Naomi is not just an ordinary person. I'm not saying that, they shouldn't, arrest. But I feel that she has some questions to answer. What measure did you put in place?
Well, again, on their defense is that this is not the first or second, it's like the third or the
she's
fourth,
organizing,
edition that they're organizing. So,
so why is it this particular edition that is causing so much,
uproar?
Well, in fact, I think that is more of an indictment, if you ask me. Because if you have organized in the past where there is peace, what was the venue compared to the venue you have now? Because from what I have gathered, the venue is a kind of jam-packed area where there is no smooth flow of traffic. And again, like I keep on saying that what precipitated the stampede? Nobody is saying anything. And have you noticed that all the people you have there are just kids?
Yeah, it was just kids.
Just kids. There is no single incident of an adult dying. I haven't seen any.
No, it was just
I haven't. So you see, so is it that kids just started stampeding on each other, and it ended that way. This what I don't. Are there no adults there? Those are some of the questions we need to ask. That is why I said there is a need for probe. Yeah, maybe the probing has to be humane, like Obi said, that the act of goodwill should not be criminalized. I quite understand that sentiment quite rightly, especially given the notoriety of the average Nigerian police, to use a hammer or a sledgehammer on virtually anything. You understand? I understand that sentiment, but all the same, I think at this point there should be a thorough investigation, not necessarily intimidating people who were out of the goodness of their heart wanted to help people. You understand? But I think at some level there must be a thorough investigation and probe of the matter.
All right, thank you a lot, Nicholas, on that. We'll move on to another story this morning. Again, it's not just it's not a very soothing story to the ears or something to the eyes to read. It's on paper, but it's worth talking about, and then we have to just talk about it as well because it's a trending national story, it has to do with a reaction first coming from the Inspector General of Police who visited Kwara over the weekend regarding the passing of a young Nigerian in police custody. And then the IGP has reacted to that, saying that, he's grieving with the family and has assured that the family and the public that the police will leave no stone unturned in uncovering the full circumstances of the incident. So the story has it that the young man, Abdul Qadri, was in police custody, and then it's been said that he died in police custody, and then it got the attention of the IGP, and he had to visit Kwara over that incident. Well, maybe for other reasons, but again, the stories are trailing that the IGP was in Kwara on Sunday thereabout.
Yeah.
And he has reacted to the story. First stop. What is the true situation of this particular story? We have reactions from both sides, the parents and the police. But hey, let's take a listen to this audio excerpt first.
Today, I am saddened, deeply saddened, to offer condolences on the loss of a young, promising individual, Abdul Qadri Jimo, whose circumstances of his death is troubling. And I want to assure you that we are taking this incident very seriously. I want to assure you that justice will be served. I have visited the police command. I have seen the cell where he was kept before the sudden report of his death. I've given necessary directives to the Commissioner of Police. And we are going to get to the root of this incident. I assure you that we'll find out the truth about his death and we'll make it public. But I want to appeal to the people to be calm. Let us not jump into conclusions about what happened. I have received the report of the Commissioner of Police. I have seen things myself at the police headquarters. I'm going to wait for the outcome of the investigation. Very competent detectives have taken over the investigation of this incident. And I have confidence that they are going to do a thorough job and the truth about the death of this young person will be revealed.
Well, that's the voice of the IG of Police, Inspector of Police, Kayode Egbetoku, who has reacted to the story. So what is your reaction to the reaction and the voice of the IGP?
Two things. Number one, I think the IG needs to ask himself this very salient question. How much does his words count in the eyes of his men? That is number one question he needs to ask himself. Because you see, for countless number of times, IGPs have said police should not be used in anything that has to do with death recovery and the rest of them. And virtually all we're having, even from the initial police statement, is about death recovery. That is number one. That is the number one question he needs to ask himself. Then secondly, you see, for me, because I was there, I was there at the Balogun Fulani when he was making that comment and all those things. And we tried to, because those were the questions I wanted to ask him, but he was very much in a hurry. After seeing the family, we asked the PPRO, the force headquarters, if we could, have like 5 minutes chat with him, because these are questions I needed to ask him. Because for me, I think there was a very, very big systemic breach in what happened. Arresting a man for an offense, an alleged offense, that could have been treated at the DPO level, migrating to the headquarters when he's not a Boko Haram suspect, and over 220,000 naira. That is the initial report from the police. And what the parents were saying, because I spoke to the family, they said he had over 400,000 naira on him. When they arrested him, okay, take the money and release the guy. And they said no. Then all of a sudden, you refuse to bail him. Then you now call them back later to come and, obtain the bail of their ward, 12 in the midnight. Then by morning, the guy was dead. And the initial claim was that he committed suicide. Now, from all the accounts that I have, they purport that the guy is about 6 feet tall. And the window with which he tied the rope where he hung himself was about 5 feet or thereabout. So you see, there are so many incongruities that you can't even begin to explain. That you say, how do you take somebody alive? And we are talking of a police force that is a signatory to the Anti-Torture Convention.
Of 2017.
Yeah, thereabout. Yeah.
Anti-Torture 2017.
Yeah. So you have that, a lot of things, that is, you see what we have been saying about the average Nigerian police, that maybe they have a separate law different from the Nigerian law they follow. They need to let us understand. We were talking about the issue of, the crime of cyberbullying. It's trending in the national, it's another issue that it's been trending for a while now about when you insult somebody, the police can arrest you and things like that. It's another controversy, because the lawyers on the one hand are saying no, that there is no such law, maybe at this level, the penal code level, where if you insult somebody, you can do a direct complaint to the court. It is allowed under the penal code, but not the criminal code. Is a different thing entirely. You understand? If you go to the police in Lagos and say the man calls me so and so, the police will just tell you to go and take him to court now. Don't bother us here. But all of a sudden you now have, the police saying that, especially when those aspect of cybercrime law has been expunged and signed into law and act, it has been repealed by the president himself, signed in February this year. That is in response to an ECOWAS court ruling. You still find our police still insisting that they are still going to go by that law that is quite nebulous. So those are some of the issues that I think it is way beyond investigating or picking a few police officers and making a scapegoat of them. No. It has gone beyond that. You see, when things like this happen in more organized society, they look for the big fish to hang. That is to serve as a deterrent for every officer, that if this could happen to somebody as big as this, so it could happen to me, so I need to be very careful. Now, let me ask you, if we follow the Black Lives Matter thing, do you know that the police officer actually followed every protocol? He followed every protocol that even though that led to the death of Floyd, But the thing was that there was a massive whip up of sentiment over this thing they call the critical race theory, that racism is institutionalized in arms. That is in the police, in the American police system. That in fact there was a theory that the manual with which the police in the US is trained was derived from Passé, who go after slaves, who go after Negro slaves. So they evolved that system into the police system. So that was why there was a need to make a scapegoat of somebody, because he was profiled. You get my point? So now, that is what happened in the US. Now, what we are saying here is that something is systemically wrong with law enforcement in our police. That sometimes A plus A is never, the law is a straightforward matter. But all of a sudden, the police will tell you, don't take bribe again. By the next day, right in the door front, just outside the IGPs, you see them collecting bribe there. Don't harass people again. Day in, day out, it happens. Currently, as we speak, on this profiling thing, the biggest threat to young Nigerians today, police ranks as one of them, especially in this Ilorin. The moment they see anybody in dreadlocks, there is a problem. They see a young man in a flashy car, there is a problem. And you have all manners of stories of extortion happening here and there. Then all you get to hear at the end of the day is the IG, the police commissioner, saying that they have told their officers, you don't have any right to look at their phone. And this thing still continues to happen. There is nobody. Every day I have my stories to tell of police brutality. But you see, yes, I understand that we cannot take, you cannot throw away the baby with the bathwater. But all the same, there is a need to see something consistently being done. What IGP, yes, it's salutary that he made that travel over to Ilorin. But you see, we just don't want to see a few bodies swinging in the market square. The quality of those bodies is what people want to see. There must be a total probe of the entire system. How did he migrate from ordinary, that kind of case? Why is it? Are they also jobless that it's a case of 220,000 that they are taking? That you now take to the headquarters? No. Something has to. There is a need to get, to the root of this matter. There must be a comprehensive answer on this matter.
Well, that's in the words of the IGP, has assured that, and of course, I may also advise that we shouldn't. Nigerians should just wait and for the outcome of their investigation. It says experts, investigators will be deployed in this case, and let's just see how it goes. And of course, we'll pick up the conversations, from them much later. Nicholas, thank you very much for coming on the program this morning. The views expressed on the program is not in any way the position of Flow FM 92.7, but solely expressed by the analyst Nicholas Nwarunoye. Thank you very much. My name is Adeyemi.